What's the most dangerous thing your child was taught in school? My son's fifth grade teacher told the class that asthma only happens to kids who don't exercise enough. I found out after my son had an asthma attack during recess and didn't have his inhaler with him. When I picked him up from the nurse's office, he kept saying he was fine and that it wasn't a big deal. The nurse mentioned that it wasn't the first time he'd had trouble breathing that week. He had told her he was trying to get through it without medicine. That stopped me cold. At home, I checked his backpack and saw his inhaler wasn't in there. I asked him why he wasn't carrying it, and he just stared at the floor. Then he said, "Mr. Jacob says you only need it if you don't move around enough." He said if I was more active, I probably wouldn't need it anymore. I'm a respiratory therapist. I've worked in pulmonary care for over 10 years, so I know asthma, and I know how dangerous it is when a kid starts thinking their condition is their fault. My son and I had already been through a journey getting him to accept his asthma when he was first diagnosed, one that ended with him in the hospital on the verge of an intensive care admission. So I was not interested in an uninformed teacher throwing him right back into a shame spiral. That night, I sent Mr. Jacobs an email and asked if I could speak to his class. I didn't mention the asthma comment. I just said I'd love to come in and talk about lungs and breathing and all the stuff I deal with at work. He replied right away saying it sounded fun and educational. I showed up the next Tuesday with a set of spirometry tubes, some simple diagrams, and a tablet loaded with videos and real data. I asked the class what they knew about asthma. A few kids raised their hands and said things like, "It's when you breathe too fast," or "You get it if you don't run enough." One boy even said, "You don't need medicine if you're tough." My son just looked down at his desk. I smiled and said, "Let's see how your lungs work." I had them blow through the tubes and try to hold their breath while pinching their noses. They laughed. They thought it was fun. Then I pulled up a chart showing how asthma affects athletes, kids, adults, runners, swimmers, and even people who exercise every day. I said, asthma isn't about how fit you are. It's about how sensitive your lungs are. Even Olympic athletes carry inhalers. It's not something you outgrow or power through. It's something you manage. My son looked up at me, and for the first time that week, he smiled. After class, Mr. Jacobs asked to speak with me in the hallway. He said, "I wish you'd brought this up privately instead of calling me out in front of the kids." I kept my voice calm. "My son skipped his inhaler for 4 days because of something he heard in your classroom. I didn't say anything about you. I just gave them the truth." Mr. Jacobs folded his arms and said, "I've been teaching for almost 20 years. I think I know how to explain things to kids." I said, "I've been treating asthma for over a decade, and I just watched my kid sit in your classroom and learn to be ashamed of something that could kill him. So no, this wasn't something I could quietly ignore." Later that week, I got a call from the principal. She said they were reviewing the lesson plan and would be updating the curriculum. She also told me Mr. Jacobs would be required to attend professional development about chronic conditions in kids. At the next parent-teacher conference, Mr. Jacobs didn't look at me once, just slid the progress report across the table and moved on to the next family. Meanwhile, my son is breathing great.